Welcome to our pilgrimage of hope. My name is Dominque Heffes-Doon, and it gives me great joy to journey with you in this holy Jubilee year. February 2025 has been designated as the month for our healthcare workers and those within our protective services. On our last episode, we explored the critical role of the healthcare worker and how they bring hope and peace in our times of health crises. In today's episode, we are pleased to welcome those in our protective services, how they can bring hope and light in the very darkest spheres of society. I'd like to start with a quote from Pope Francis. "The world needs you. Especially at this dark moment in history, we need men and women of faith who are capable of putting weapons at the service of peace and brotherhood." Powerful words from Pope Francis,
Indeed.
Powerful words. And on that note, it gives me great pleasure to welcome our very special guest, a member of the prison service, Mr. Joel Roberts. Joel Roberts has been a career prison officer for over 20 years and has been attached to the correctional arm of the institution with the responsibility for inmate rehabilitation. He currently sits as the officer in charge at the office of the Senior Superintendent of Prisons. Joel is a professed servant leader, and this pursuit for self-fulfillment began with his involvement in community service at the age of 12, which was broadened when he became a prisons officer in 2002. Joel's portfolio called for a high level of analytical, planning skills, as well as an ability to communicate and cooperate with personnel of all ranks and many cultural and social backgrounds. Joel also holds the portfolio of officer in charge of religion, education, cultural and special purpose events and activities. Joel's desire to serve has garnered him several awards. Amongst those is the Award for Outstanding Service, National Security Officers Foundation in 2016, and also an Outstanding Community Service from the San Juan Lavantil Regional Corporation in 2006. He is also affiliated with several groups such as the Children's Ark Foundation, the Wishing for Wings Foundation, Blacks in Criminal Justice Foundation, and the Prison Service Youth Club, to name a few. Once again, Joel, wow, that was a mouthful. Thank you for joining us. That is so much, and may I congratulate you on your tremendous work. You know, Joel, I want to start with, well, audience, I want to tell you a personal story of how we first met.
Correct.
It was a few years ago at the St. Finbar, well, it wasn't St. Finbar's, it was Finbar Ryan Geriatric Home. And it was a beautiful initiative that you were doing. You had brought the prison community to this elderly home, and they were helping by grooming and talking. And your portfolio is rehabilitation. And to me, that's so wonderful because it is bringing hope to dark spheres in our society. So please tell us the story.
Yeah, well, that story is a very interesting one, and it's also a personal and dear one to me, because I remembered firstly seeing the article in the papers where they were talking about how the clients there were being ill-treated and stuff, and it dawned on me because the prison service was celebrating at that time what we call our Restorative Justice Week, right, where we have a number of initiatives throughout the entire week. And one of it is our community outreach, where we encourage the clients in the prison to give back to the community as part of their reparation. And I said, but the Catholics, through the Archbishop, has been doing so much for us in the prison. It's hard to believe that a home that's under the Archdiocese is not being supported, and it's a good opportunity for us to say thanks and to give back. And readily the commissioner then and the seniors would have bought into the idea. So we met and we did it. It was so heartbreaking to see, the old adage that talks about once a man, twice a child.
Yeah.
That you see the senior citizens, some of who would have been, I remember one there was a former permanent secretary, one was a bodybuilder, and, you know, you saw them now at that later stage, and you had to actually feed them like a child, play games with them like children, and it touched me in such a way because I too, at this point, is taking care of my 85-year-old mom who has Alzheimer's. So I could have identified with what was going on there. And, you know, it brought you to a reality that one day we all, once we live that age, as my mother always tell me, I think you'll live to see my age, you know, that we all may get there, and how we treat our elderly is very, very important. And the inmates had a good time. They really, really had a good time. You know, they groom the ladies. They did manicure, pedicure. You know, then they had barbering for the men. They played games with them, and of course, it all climaxed with a concert that the inmates band, put on for those citizens there. You know, so it was really, really a good and enjoyable time and experience. You know, and I want to encourage TNT that we need to do more for our elderly.
I agree. That is so beautiful. Now, Joel, you made reference to His Grace Archbishop Jason Gordon, and every Easter season on Holy Thursday, His Grace does something quite beautiful. He washes the feet of prison inmates. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, that is such an awesome occasion in the prison. You know, the vibes that it brings, the whispers, the message of hope, you know, that it brings to the inmates. And it's also such a humbling experience to see that His Grace will actually come and wash the feet of offenders. You know, that says so much for them and make them feel as important. You know, I know that for most inmates, you know, there's this rush as to see who are the persons that is going to be selected. You know, unfortunately, everybody can't. But, you know, it's such a hopeful period just because with His Grace comes that hope that this is somebody and he's really looked up to as somebody of hope within the prison, not only for his spirituality, but the position that he holds in the country, and to see that because offenders are most times forgotten. Yeah. You know, it's locked away, throw away the keys, and they are most times forgotten. So to have someone of that stature come to the prison and not only talk with you, but willing to wash your foot and then kiss it after and all that. It's like, I could share one story I know, and he told me, so I have, for a whole week, was putting my foot in a plastic bag to take my shower because I don't want to wash it off. You know, and that's the kind of thing that has affected and for everybody involved. You know?
That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And you know, we've spoken to the inmates and their experiences, but those within the protected services, those like yourself, how do you find hope? Because I can imagine your work seems extremely daunting at times.
Indeed it is. You know, I was on an interview about 2 weeks ago, and I would have said at that interview, if it was for the salary, I would have gone, appeal to the ministry. You know, but the hope comes from understanding that we are in the people's service, also understanding that we are privileged as officers because we have a number of stakeholders who partner with us, volunteers, most of which do it for free. You know, and I told someone, we have to see ourselves as privileged because to touch and save lives, and we are being paid to some extent to do something like that, to help reform, to help change someone, and we're being paid to do it. We have to see ourselves as privileged. You know, and I shared a story that I went out for dinner, and the waiter that was serving me for over an hour and a half, when they brought my bill, they turned to me and they said, Mr. Roberts, you remember me? And I couldn't. But then they were telling me of a number of things that I would have said that I know, yeah. he had to interact with me because those are things that I would say. And he was telling me that I inspired him to do better with his life and stuff. And he told me he's in this job 2 years now. And,
that's incredible.
you know, and that to me is the hope there, to know that you have impact and you have saved a life, because once we touch one life, we touch many, because that person could have been a murderer who's going around there killing people and distressing people. So once you touch one, you actually touch many, and that is where the hope comes from, knowing that you have been able to impact on somebody's life and help them to turn around and become a good and productive citizen.
You are truly making a difference in the society, because I think I can speak to most members in our society. The crime rate is something that truly does take away our sense of hope and our sense of peace. So thank you for sharing that story. I find that incredibly uplifting. Many in the protective services, especially the police service, do more than just serve and protect. Many do reach out to the youth. One such person, as we will discover in a few minutes, is Corporal Randy Canhai, who was inspired by his work in the police service to support the youth, to create a better path for them. Now let us hear from Corporal Randy Canhai.
I'm Randy Canhai, leader of the Bridge Castle United Youth Empowerment Organization, an organization that was formed in the year 2018 with the sole aim and objective of really empowering and, you know, making proper use of the youths and them, the talent, the skill in the Bridge Castle area. I'm also an active member of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and leader of the Chickland Police Youth Club. Right? We are here this morning in the Bridge Castle area just to give you a little gist as to what we have done thus far from 2018 to now. As you all can see, we have the SHAPE project, which is the SHAPE program. It is Sustainable Hydroponics Agriculture Program for Young Entrepreneurs. Well, these lettuce, right? So we do lettuce and factory here most of the times, but it's really primarily for the youths and them to know the mixture, the content, the actual work behind it, the soil, what it requires, the pH. And this SHAPE program would have been augmented and strengthened by different entities, the business community within the Bridge Castle Couva area, and also the International Organization for Migrants under the Chickland Police Youth Club, in addition to the Edinburgh 500 Police Youth Club led by Sergeant Small, which is also a team and active player in the development in the Bridge Castle area. So, you know, we have things ongoing. It's really to develop the youths and them skillfully, right, holistically, culturally, and you know, just making sure that they are productive citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. Also, we have another project on stream, and it is entitled the Homework Center for the Bridge Castle Youths. So the Homework Center geared towards really bringing the youths up to date, you know, teaching them life skills, even not only the men, the young men, but also the young women, and getting other agencies, entities to be in line with what we are doing and help with these projects also. So, you know, the Youth Empowerment Center, the Homework Center is really geared towards that holistic development. And you know, we also want to bring on stream something vocational, because we realize that not only are the youths and them involved academically, but we also know that they're skilled with their hands. And some of these A-frames would have built by these said children, right? So it's to develop them, you know, make them develop a skill set then, so to speak. So we're in the Bridge Castle area here this Sunday morning, you know, just doing what we have to do, what we love to do. One of the things that we encourage with the sporting activities and the sporting arena too is we invite teams from different areas within the Central Division. So this morning behind me you can see that there are youths encouraged from the California area, because we're all about building and effecting teamwork. You understand? So it's something where we don't want to build any borderlines. We want to create bridges. We want the youths and them to be developed so that they could go freely from one entity to the next. We know the issue of borderlines in Trinidad and Tobago, where there are warring fractions. But in Bridgeton Castle, it's all about love. BCI, Bridgeton Castle, is love. So that is what we promote, that is what we enhance, and that is what we intend to commit ourselves to.
Thank you, Corporal Kanhai, and exactly that. Now is the time to build bridges. That's what brings hope to a society. That's what brings peace. Thank you so much. And speaking of peace and spirituality, Joel, how do you find peace in these moments? How do you develop your spiritual practice?
Sure. Well, I am a devout Catholic under the shepherdship of Father Godfrey Stout, and if anybody knows Father Stout, yeah, you ought to find peace. I look forward to Mass on a weekend. That helps, as I call it, reset that clock. Reset that time and help you to refocus to go forward to another week. Other than that, I try to meditate. I love to watch comedies and that sort of thing to help me just relax and wind down my afternoons.
And how do you think we can find more compassion for those in the protective services? Because given the state of our society, maybe police officers, those within the prison system, you deal with a lot of heaviness. How can the general public give you hope? How can the general public uplift this arm of society?
Okay. As you said that, my mind run back on Sesame Street. Where they said there was the nursery rhyme that says a policeman is a person in your neighborhood. And I think that's what we need to remember. It's just like the criminals as well. We come from your community. We are some of the best that you may have to offer in your community, and we are doing a service that most people can't do. And what is required in the prison, we have something called a shared responsibility model, that we understand that we cannot do it alone, and we require support. So sometimes when you see these negative articles, remember there's persons like Corporal Kanai who are doing a lot of unsung work that persons don't know about behind the scenes to make sure at the end of the day you are safe at night, or even safer than what we are experiencing now. But remember us,
That's beautiful.
and keep us in your prayer too.
I was just going to say that. Let's invite everybody who is watching and those within our general society. Let us pray for those in our protective services to give them the courage, the hope, the peace within themselves, so that they can continue this occasionally very dangerous work, And the reality is, as you've rightly said, individuals like Corporal Kanhai, yourself, who are genuinely interested in serving youth, in uplifting the entire community, we want to thank you. Thank you for making that sacrifice.
Sure.
So, sorry, go ahead.
So I also want to ask you too to also remember our families, because they too journey with us along that journey, because they are part of what's taking place, because most of us, the job doesn't end at 8 when you leave. Most of us, as much as you try not to, you carry the job home with you as well. So your family, sometimes we make daunting sacrifices, family sacrifices, to ensure that, the country is in a better place. So remember our families as well.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So yes, and as we close off, I invite you to share your final thoughts with us. How can we as a community find that unity, find that hope that will take us through, as Pope Francis has said, through some dark times?
Yeah. I remember a former commissioner of mine always used to remind me of Galatians 6:9, which talks about don't be weary in well-doing, because in due season you will reap the reward if you faint not. And I want to encourage the country to do that. Right? Though that times may be difficult, it may be hard, continue to do good. right, and do good because it is the right thing to do. You know, continue to rally around us, the members of the protective services, and encourage us, you know, push us to do better because we need to do much better, you know, to ensure that we have a safer TNT.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Okay.
And thank you so much, Joel. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And join us next time as we journey to this holy Jubilee year with peace and hope in our hearts. Thank you.
If you can raise your eyes to the horizons of renewal and restoration, if you can open your ears to the voice of the Beloved, who calls you to hope and not despair, if you can reach out and forgive, heal and restore in spite of the hurt and darkness, then you will realize a jubilee of hope and restoration for our world. And you would have made a journey of hope. Come join us in this pilgrimage of hope as it becomes a reality in the life of the church. And truly, it will be a jubilee to celebrate.